All right, here. This is the grand finals of the Alpha Navigators Cup 13 America's edition. It's Denver, it's Mixu, it's a Vanguard mirror, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Mixu, one of the best Vanguard players that we have. Denver, the best Vanguard player, without a doubt. Number 2 on ladder. Not able to take down Parting necessarily, but number 2 on ladder. Very, very good in this matchup. And I before we get into this, by the way, I'm doing this off of a VOD. I'm doing this off a video that was recorded. I was not in game for this, and I've seen some people say, hey, you know, the quality's not great. I'm like, well, you know, this is off of someone else recording, so there will be some video losses. So just worth talking about. But anyways, we're going to start here on a map that is very familiar to a lot of people. Broken Crown Hinterlands, map 1 of this grand finals. And I actually haven't seen a lot of Vanguard Mirror. I've spent a lot of time casting the Celestial games. I'm actually out of Celestial games for the most part, because unfortunately, while Parting is very good, Parting is number 1 on ladder. He 4-0 Denver in that one best of 7 I had access to. Well, he did do that. After that point, it's just a lot of really good Vanguard players, because it turns out getting a quick tier 2 command post and upgrade, just mass veteran seeing, mass promoting everything. Turns out that's really good. Very hard for Inferno players to deal with. Very hard for Vanguard players to deal with. Very hard for Celestial players to deal with, unless you're Parting. And then you just mass vectors and you're kind of fine. So we're gonna take a look at this Vanguard mirror for now. So Denver trying to mess with the scout. Ideally, he's just looking to creep jack. So if he can get a last shot on, oh, there he gets one. Ah, there we go. Steals a little bit of Therium. Obviously, won't be able to get everything because, well, it's a Lancer double scout versus just his scout. He's not going to be able to get everything, but he does get some of the Therium. That's going to be pretty nice because he's taking his own Therium patch on the left side. Will eventually become his after he takes it. Notice how he lines himself up with the Lancers a little bit. These Lancers do splash damage in a line. Oh God! Denver steals 2. Man. It's funny, you look at, you got to be very careful. Lancers are expensive, maybe not in money, it's only 100 Luminite, but certainly expensive at time in this early game. So, let me turn the volume up on this a little bit. There we go. I'm like, why am I not hearing this well enough? Anyways, they are certainly expensive in production time when you get the barracks out, because obviously you are trying to maximize your economy as much as possible. So notice Mixu, he's on tier 2. He's upgraded all 3 of his scouts. They're all level 3. They're all max level. And that gives them more HP. That makes them do more damage. All right, that's just how that works. So Lancers are going to have to back home, even though Lancers are technically good if they get surrounded by 4 scouts like this. If they don't have the good positioning, well, scouts can cause massive problems, and especially into, say, a Bob line, because, well, bonus damage to light units has a lot to say about that one. I think we saw Mixu go and get a cyber or get a biokinetics lab as well. Cyber core StarCraft. I was casting StarCraft this morning, so that's what that is. But anyways, we saw Mixu. I want to say he got a biokinetics lab as well. So these scouts should have the upgrades that make them do do more damage to light units, which is a pretty big deal. But again, they don't fight Lancers. There we go. So there's the bio lab. They don't fight Lancers very well, is kind of the thing. So we're going to see Lancers, mass upgrades on 3 Lancers right there. See Denver clicks those down, and now these Lancers are going to be a challenge to deal with. Notice they got the splash damage. We talked about that. And it means these scouts really are going to struggle to fight. Yes, Bob overcharge is a thing, and they make Bobs far better than they have any right to be, far better than you ever expect them to be. But even still, these Lancers, these highly upgraded Lancers, are a problem that Mixu doesn't quite have an answer to just yet. So Bobs are going to get pulled around. We do have the repair beacon, which repairs the scouts, repairs the Bobs as well. It's all mechanical here. But now overcharge is done. And that means these units are not nearly as powerful as they once were defensively. The Bobs aren't. So now this is where the damage should get started. Yes, there's a Hedgehog out, and that is going to eventually be able to wear away at these things. So scouts, for the most part, you know, Mixu's done a really good job of keeping them alive and getting a Lancer out defensively. The Citizen's Arrest on the 1 Lancer on the north side that's not attacking. It's just moving. Denver's not really solving that. And with Exos out and Hedgehogs out and all this, this was a really solid defense. Yes, a couple Bobs did go down. We're looking at well, I don't know. I don't know who has the worker lead as such. Denver's certainly behind in supply off of that because he lost 4 or 5 Lancers, 5 highly upgraded Lancers for really minimal gain. So that looked really bad for Mixu. It absolutely did, but he holds on really nicely. Good citizen's arrest, good overcharge to make sure he lives long enough. And that's just enough time for an exit to pop out, just enough time for a hedgehog to pop out. And now we got level 3. We talked about this upgrade thing. Well, it's level 3 hedgehog. And the big thing, the reason, I guess the big problem with this setup, and I imagine it's going to get nerfed in early access. I'm not worried about that. But the kind of issue with this, how accessible promotion is off the top bar ability, is that it really encourages you to play on one base. Not only because you want to get up there as quick as possible because it's this really powerful ability, but also because if you don't rush there and your opponent has gotten there, then you just cannot fight. It's really, really painful. So for now, Mixu's got his natural because he held on to that, because there was that heavy Lancer commitment that didn't really work out all that well. Well, all of a sudden he's got his natural done. He's got these hedgehogs on the map that represent a lot of threat the scouts are going to try to run by. I don't know if Denver ever got the biolab. That I'm not sure about. But scouts, they do scout as well. That is, I mean, with this number of scouts, certainly the biolab was made, I've got to assume. But with this number of scouts on the map, that's a lot of vision available. It's a lot of creep clearing available. If you can get your way into a Luminite line, it's really nice. As now, well, we're getting into this kind of mid-game composition that is as expected. For the most part, you get a couple Lancers because they're beefy, right? They're tanky. They give you that power. And then it's primarily Scout Hedgehog. Scouts because they can go and try to get surrounds and lock things in place, and then Hedgehogs, well, tier 3 Hedgehogs do some of the most damage of anything in the game. So that's where we are. Denver is in a bit of a rough spot, though, as we take a look at this. His army's fine. His army's reasonable. It's not massive, but it is reasonable. But he only has one base. You know, he doesn't have this natural. He doesn't have this extra mining, although the army of Mixu's caught out on the map here, and he's just going to find his way in. No scouts blocking out areas, and we're going to see, well, this, there we go. It goes down immediately. No bunker available. Nothing like that. No sentry post available. No healing. No extra damage from that one. So now the army of Mixu has to find his way home. And he's already taken some damage. But even still, remember, this Bob count is much better for Mixu. That also means that as the supplies are pretty equal, the army for Denver is much, much bigger here. So the scouts are going to try to get on top, put these hedgehogs in the corner as much as they can. But even still, remember, scouts don't do a ton of damage to the hogs. So yes, they're putting them in a corner. Yes, they are doing something. But they're not really killing. Really what it is, more importantly, is the scouts getting a lot of counter Bob damage done is kind of the story we're looking at. But even still, Denver dives into overcharge Bobs. Yes, the natural was, yes, was able to cancel a sentry post, and yeah, the army was pretty out of position, but Mixu handles this really nicely. He does a really nice job of making sure that, well, he gets back in time, although this time overcharge's not done, and Denver doing the same thing. He's like, I dive out the left side, I dive in the right side. Can't expect that one. So for now, it's just gonna have to be mass repairs. Hedgehog popping out here, getting promoted once. It's gonna have to get promoted a couple more times before it is really that power unit. But even still, it gets promoted just enough HP to actually keep it alive, which is pretty cool. And for now, Mixu keeps his natural up. He keeps his mining up for the most part. And then, by the way, we're seeing, it's kind of funny. You watch other players play, it's like, yeah, the energy count, or the equivalent. So for Denver, it is energy. For Celestials, it's power. Of course, for Infernals, it's Animus. But it never goes much above 5, because every time you got 5 anima or 5 energy, promote a unit, promote a unit, promote a unit. There's no saving for the there's no saving for shields up. There's no saving for sentry drones. Promote those units. Make them much more powerful than they are. And again, it's this arms race. How many tier 3 units can you keep alive? How many tier 3 units can you take away from your opponent? And go things like that. So Mixu has the health beacon on the north side, which allows him to get some of these hedgehogs back up. He did take the Therium camp on the left side, but that's getting recaptured by Denver. And Denver, while his natural is very far behind, he has done a good job of getting money off the map a little bit more. He's killed more creep camps. He's had control over more creep camps. He's had this Luminite camp for quite a while. And while, again, that's not a base, it does supplement some of the issues. Not all of them, certainly, but it does supplement some of the issues. As now Mixu, third base on the way for him, as Denver is going to take his natural. So it seems like in most RTS games, there are the periods of high action where players have timings that they want to take advantage of. They have army supplies maybe they want to take advantage of. They feel like they have, if they're going to go take a fight, they have a better than 50% chance to win the fight, which is really what if you think you have less than 50% chance to win the fight, you're just not going to take it, ideally. Sometimes you have to because the game is over, but ideally you're going to try to dodge around and be annoying. So we have these periods, and then players kind of like, oh, well, you know, I want to take a third base, or I got this upgrade coming, or I need this other timing. So then they back up a little bit and the game kind of stabilizes, or it's just something as simple as, I don't think I can break my opponent right now. Regardless of what the timing is, like, it's just, I don't think they're too defensively positioned. I don't think I can break my opponent. So it's kind of interesting to see that ebb and flow. Man, this is so many scouts out of Denver. Just this idea that, well, I'm going to kill my opponent's scouts. I'm going to surround everything, and I'm going to have enough hedgehogs to maybe make something happen. If I dive into a Luminite line, maybe that's going to be worth doing. But this scout number, and we're going to see how well it's going to work. If they get a full surround, the hedgehog's dead. It got promoted, and I guess it didn't get promoted. The energy wasn't spent, but it did hit level 1 and immediately died. So there is that. There is a ton of map control that Denver has access to. That is certainly true. So he's taken both Luminite camp. Well, actually, he hasn't taken the defensive Luminite camp, just the aggressive one. But he's taken the aggressive Luminite camp. He has Mixu's Ethereum camp. He can take his own if he wants. He has the majority of the creep camps is the thing. And now a bunch of scouts are going to try to dive in. Hedgehogs as well, though. There is a Vulcan in this army, and Vulcans shred these light units. So it's going to have to be a full surround. Denver dives on top. Thinks he's got what it takes. It is a massive surround, by the way. This hedgehog, this Vulcan is starting to eat. Well, not enough, actually. Never mind. It fed, it feasted, but actually, it probably did enough here. Do we have enough shots available for the hedgehog? Scouts are trying to get on top of them, but it seems like the majority of this army of Denver is slowly going away. Still plenty of bobs available. And yes, some of them will die, but that is a sacrifice that Mixu is more than willing to make. He's up double the supply at this point. And that Vulcan, even if it did go down, it chunked. It did so much. It did so very much. Now there's a second Vulcan on the field getting promoted on cooldown effectively by Denver. Mixu, or by Mixu. Denver, well, actually, Mixu's soaking a little bit of energy there. But now that he's on 3 bases, Denver might have taken the third base. I'm not sure. In the 6 o'clock position. Okay, so he does have a third base on the way. I wasn't sure that was like his army just hanging around, but he has taken the third base. It's a gasless. It's a theriumless third base. It's an oreless. There we go. We're gonna call them ore. We're gonna call it ore. Makes easier to say than therium. Golden ore. There we go. But anyway, it's an oreless third, which means that, yeah, you can continue to build scouts, certainly, but hedgehogs, you're not gonna be able to build that much more. Now, granted, you get therium reserves in the main and the natural, so or patches in the main and the natural, so it's not that bad necessarily. But for now, we're gonna see about just go in the sentry post. Scouts trying to run through, but I don't think they're gonna be able to get enough done again realistically. Although this in the main base, notice that Denver pulled away the highly upgraded scout just to buy time. Ideally, you want to keep your scouts alive, but knowing that this is a one-way trip, the level 3 scout just lives a little longer, and then more time to do elsewhere. And dive into the third base as well. Denver is behind. Absolutely, he's down by about double the army supply, but he doesn't really look like that. He's doing such a good job of trying to split Mixu apart that we're never really seeing that massive supply lead that Mixu has. We're never really seeing it come to bears. Now all the bobs from the main base on over to the third, or I guess it's a bunch of extra bobs, really. So Denver's gonna have to take the 4th base probably pretty soon. Unless he just wants to be incredibly super saturated, but dives in. There we go. Gets another headshot. Now, this is a tier 2 Vulcan under the auspices, under the aegis of a repair turret, but even still, apparently not. The paramedic is not going to repair it enough, but now these these hedgehogs, they have to go run away. They got a Vulcan. They absolutely did that, but oh, look at the body block. Oh, it doesn't work. Nice try. Even still. Yeah, there we go. Denver's going to tap out. Mixu takes game number 1 here of this grand finals. So, Secluded Grove, map 2. Denver had a good move early, but wasn't able to quite capitalize on it well enough. Slowly bled out units, didn't develop his economy as quickly, and that meant that Mixu just had more stuff. That Vulcan, that was the big deal. The Vulcan at the fight around the third base shredded enough of the scouts that the full surround didn't really kill enough, and then, hey, big lead. Big lead. So now we're seeing both players. Secluded Grove is a little weird. Not weird. I guess maybe that's not fair, but it is unique. Well, it's not the only map that has this. It has a couple special characteristics. That's the way to talk about it. One, well, there's the middle map, and that can define a lot of things. Maybe not as much the mirror matchup, just because of how you play with all the scouts, but in general, the middle map can define things. There also are just a couple flowers on the map, and we see both players looking for them right now. Mixu got a Luminite flower early on in the game. There are 4 total generally. There are generally 2 Therium, generally 2 Luminite. And if you kill them with anything, they'll give you they'll give you a number of Luminite, they'll give you a number of Therium, which is not a ton, but it does help accelerate your builds just a little bit. So we see everyone's looking around for it. The other thing, of course, that we point out with this is that it's mirrored. So we saw Mixu go. He got a flower right here, actually. He got that flower, which means that there's a similar flower close-ish to the... oh, actually, I think he's found another one. Yeah, there we go. Got the other one. We can see the little gray dot on the mini-map. There's going to be another flower in a similar position, kind of where we're looking right now. Because they're mirrored across the map along whatever axis. So that's something that if you are trying to play, or say early access, if they still have this feature, and who knows, maybe they remove it, but it's been here across Elephant and Frigate at the very least. If you are new to when you find yourself playing early access, if you know where one flower is, you know where the other one is. So you can maybe sneak in there, send a scout in, send something else, and speed your tech tree up that much faster. So for now, Denver rallies towards the middle. I thought he might be trying to go and thinking about taking the middle base. That seems really greedy given how this game goes, but he is going for that same triple Lancer opening we saw in game 1. That did get a lot done. Going straight up to Central Command, Tier 2, getting mass promotion going. Now, here is my question as we take a look at things. I don't think an overcharge was spent. And Mixu had a ton of energy of it, much more than Denver did. So, I'm actually not... I don't know. I guess Mixu just got to Central Command that much faster. Or I guess Denver was able to get to Central Command that much faster and spend his energy a little bit more. For now, though, it's a bunch of highly upgraded scouts. I mean, we saw this last time. Bobs have to get pulled. There we go. Mass promotion coming out of Denver. And for now, he's going to back up. Notice, of course, you do want the overcharge available. So that energy is available for Mixu at the time being. Overcharge is going to get popped. And the value, of course, of it is not just that it gives 50 armor to the Bobs, which means they take half damage. They really don't die. It also means you can build things faster, so you can get the sentry post up a little bit quicker. And again, we're going to see this surround coming out of Mixu, these highly upgraded scouts, these highly promoted scouts doing a good job of just serving as an HP buffer as much as anything else. But even still, I mean, this is double Rax Lancer opening, and as the Lancers continue to arrive, they continue to get promoted here. Denver, he's got a little bit more energy. He can do it again. Didn't lose much. I don't think he lost a single Lancer here. Like, really good micro, and now that overcharge is done, we saw a bunch of Bobs evaporate instantaneously. Factories gonna have to get sold as well, just because, well, you need more stuff. You need more money for stuff, is the story of things. So Exo's out. It's gonna be a flat cannon that is splash damage. It doesn't do as much damage as a buzzsaw, but it does do splash damage. It's pretty important if you look at these kind of clusters of Lancers here. But the other thing to point out here is Mixu's not really mining. His Bobs are going to get pulled off. They're on hold position as well as they would like, but, well, if they're not mining, they're not making money. If they're not making money, they're not doing what he wants. They're allowing Denver to continue further ahead. So we saw this happen in game 1. Mixu had a nice hold. Was able to get the damage of the overcharged Bobs to get on top of things. And now in game 2, we're just not seeing that efficiency as much. which is a wee bit unfortunate for Mixu. Now, and what that means as well, because all these Lancers are here, if you remember, in Game 1, the Lancers died. I was going to say, because all these Lancers are here, you can get more map control. You can take the Vision Tower. You can take some creep camps. But now with Exos out, Scouts looking for the surround, the Lancers do have to back up. I think one is dead. Oh, the Scouts looking for the surround here. They're going to... Oh, there we go. There's the body block. They're going to get one of those highly upgraded Lancers. Another one is going to get promoted enough to stay alive. Gets that HP boost right off the top. So it's a pseudo heal. It doesn't actually heal them, but if it gives you an additional, 50 HP, it gives you that base HP. So you just go up that much more. So Denver is able to bait him in just a little bit, get the HP back up, and start to swing this thing the other way. But Mixu does have his natural done. So too does Denver, to be fair. Let's see what Denver can get done with this. Again, this is a terrifying army for this game state. Yes, there are hedgehogs on the map, and hey, it's level 3. There we go. And yes, a hedgehog can kite out, but it fires 4 shots, then it has to go and, well, get its shots back. You only have 4 shots in the volley at a time, but even still, I mean, it is just so fast that it feels like it should eventually be able to go and knock things down. Seems like Mixu has stabilized for the most part. No, not perfectly, and he's still in a rough spot here, but I don't know that he... Well, as I was going to say, I don't know that he dies anytime soon, but he is asking to get surrounded here with the Scouts and the Lancers and everything else. It looks like Denver's getting very much ready just to dive in and try to make this game end. Bombs are going to get pulled into this. Do we have an overcharge? Not enough energy for it, so it doesn't really matter. And it's a full surround on top of everything. The Scouts are shredding. The Lancers are shredding. And look at this. He can't even retreat back into the main base. The Scouts, some of them, of course, they're getting promoted from promotion from the Central Command. Some are just getting promoted through Battlefield Valor. And at the end of the day, it's a couple of hedgehogs kiting away. And yeah, they out-kite anything else that Denver has, but more stuff does beat less stuff. And sure, the hedgehogs, they out-kite, but they got a turn. And Mixu is dead. Denver ties us up at 1 apiece. So, okay. Isle of Dread. We've had some pretty standard maps that we saw on the Elephant playtest. Some just very, very standard maps that we've seen across multiple playtests now. Isle of Dread's new. Isle of Dread was added in the most recent playtest. It's massive. It's so big. Still can be a bit of a struggle to get the Therium, and that's kind of been true across all maps. Seems like Frost Giant really doesn't want to necessarily give you full 3 base mining easily. Secluded Grove, or excuse me, Broken Crown does give you full 3 base mining, does give you the Therium and the Luminite on all 3 bases if you kind of cut through some trees and take the triangular setup. So you do have access to that, but most other maps don't. You get 1 patch in the main base, 1 patch in the natural, kind of, and that's it. And by the way, as we take a look at this, yeah, there isn't really a clear natural on this map. Not really. You can see that there's a double Luminite setup on the north side. That can be useful to take. Just holla holla get dollar. You can see the right side where we're seeing Mixu go and take the rich Therium camp, which is any map that you can go and take the Therium camps off. It gives you 25 Therium just for killing the creeps, and then you get like, I think it's like 6 per tick. So it actually matters quite a bit. It does quite a bit. It really does slow your timings up in a significant way. So we're going to see players go for that as much as they can. All 5 spiders are dead. Scouts here taking the rest of it. So Mixu's going to go and be able to get that Therium mining as quickly as possible. Already at 50, right? And that means Central Command is going to be on the way pretty quickly. Mass upgrades. I mean, we know how this works. We've seen a couple games of it just now. Maybe different setups, but Mixu, he's going for the early bio lab, right? Getting upgrades on the Scouts as quick as you please, because, well, bonus damage versus light means they fight Scouts better. It means they fight Bobs better, and that's kind of the goal. If you can dive into a Bob line and shut down your opponent's economy, that really is the nice thing. Meanwhile, Mixu, Denver, double racks again, where it seems like that is how he thinks this matchup should be played. Oh, and by the way, we should point out, because I know I've seen people in YouTube comments talking about how, well, man, everything, like, I'm worried about how just the players are playing the same thing over and over again. A large portion of that, realistically, is that these playtests last like 3 weeks. You know, you have an idea about how you want to play the game, but you're not developing like 7 builds. You're trying to solve the game as well as you can off one build, and it generally takes a little bit longer for the meta to develop to the point where you're like, this is fine. Certainly if it's not like you're not prepping for, say, the EGC tournament or something where Parting had multiple builds. But that was also a $10,000 tournament, so you're committing to it a little bit more. We will start to see more builds become viable and competitive across all the matchups, and hopefully more in this series. Really what it is there are a couple things that are just really, really powerful, and they constrain the space upon which you're allowed to play with builds. So in this case, and we see this in every versus Vanguard setup, you want to get up to Central Command as quick as possible because promotion is really freaking strong. But that also means if you're playing against a Vanguard player, you have to do whatever can handle with their promoted Hedgehogs, which are the best unit to promote right now. They just, again, with the extra damage they do with how fast they are, they really extract value. So you have to do something that is going to be able to, in some way, shape, or form, handle these promoted Hedgehogs. And that may only be one thing in the current state, because again, we don't have tier 3, we're lacking other units, we may be lacking some tier 2 units, who knows, we don't know. But because of that, because you do have to deal with these promoted Hedgehogs, the line that you can follow, the viable number of lines in kind of build order setups are, well, less than they would otherwise be in, say, I don't know, well, something where there are less OP ideas. Like Parting goes Mass Vector because it's the only thing he's found that really does deal, as we see the mass promotion there. It's kind of cool as we watch the players play here. There comes a time when it's like, okay, I'm building Hedgehogs. Every Hedgehog I make gets promoted ASAP. That's just how this game goes, and I'm not going to hold any energy. But we're also seeing players hold energy a little bit. So, you know, like, I don't need to promote my scouts unless they're fighting. Maybe I need to go and mass promote my Lancers instead because that's the type of game that's happening. So we're seeing Mixu, we're seeing Denver in particular hold his energy up until the point where he really needs it, and then he's spending it. Of course he is, but that's what you're looking for. By the way, talking about how we are maybe not seeing a bunch of different builds from Denver, Mixu is doing something a little bit different. We're not seeing that rapid Hedgehog play. He's getting a Vulcan straight. And I wonder if we're going to... this map feels too big because we have seen him go for kind of a bit of a bob pull before, but this Vulcan is surrounded. It does not have upgrade. Well, there we go. There's the promotion. Okay, well. I'm almost sad that I'm listening to myself in my headphones because... God, the Celestial soundtrack's so good. But anyways, Natural on the way. He's not going to take the forward double Luminite base. Seems like Denver is, though. So a couple different ways of playing the game. Exo in the main base and the flat cannon. So that's not going to get a lot not done from the scouts at Denver. But we're seeing a pretty different game here, and I do like that. Now, Isle of Dread's a big map. We talked about that, but also it's got so many different attack paths. We can see Denver taking advantage. There are 2 ways into the main base. There are 2 ways into the natural. There are arguably 3 ways into the natural that Denver has taken. It's not incredibly wide open in the majority of the map, but it does have tons of attack paths. And that does matter. Hey, scouts dive in. 2 of them, I think should, yeah, there we go. They will go down, but they got a couple bobs. And by the way, Mixu is I was gonna say you're taking double Therium camp, but I think the camps have respawned on the bottom right. So certainly he's taking the camp from Denver at this point, which again, if you're trying to build this mech style, massive Vulcan, Hedgehogs just to supplement, Lancers just because you need to spend your Luminite on something, getting that double Therium is tremendously valuable. So for now, he does lose Therium on the north side. Denver's going to be able to take that one back up, but level 2 there. So we're going to see 10 Therium each. That's 50 Therium off the top, plus whatever you get off the tower. It's a pretty big deal. Again, that's a nice injection going into things. And now, okay, so now that the Vulcans are out, this becomes rather difficult for Denver to truly push. So where does he go from here? He's got himself double mech bay. Machine lab actually being made for Mixu. So he's going to be able to go and get the jump upgrade for the Vulcans, which allows him to go and dash forward. Hoping I could quickly look up the name because I forget. But anyway, the jetpack upgrade that allows you to dash forward, to stun, to dash away, to reposition these Vulcans once they get caught. And if it's a mass dog surround, if it's a mass scout surround, dashing out of the surround and stunning is a really nice deal. But man, these Vulcans are just going to get found out right now. That being said, the highly upgraded one is getting a lot of damage done here. Even still, it will go down. Bobs are going to have to get pulled into this, and this is a nice catch from Denver. Mixu losing the Vulcans that he's committed so much time and money for before, I think even before their upgrades were done, they didn't dash out, is a big deal. So for now, Mixu thinks he can take the fight anyways. He's got scouts in more numbers. And again, this is kind of a weird setup. So it's 2 bases for 2 bases technically. But Mixu's got the Luminite Therium base. So he's mining more Therium. He's able to develop more tech into his army. I mean, we can see that in his bank right now. He's got 221 Therium in the bank. Denver doesn't really have much of anything. Flip side though, Denver has the double Luminite base. He can build much more basic units, more Lancers, more Scouts, more things like that. But theoretically, he doesn't have as much Luminite or Therium income, so he can't build Vulcans, is the thing. So he's going to be stuck on a little bit lower of a tech army. More of it, probably, but lower tech. And even as I say more of it, the supply does not tell that story. Although, I think part of it might be that Vulcans are very supply heavy, as much as they are very good units. They are very supply heavy. So that might be kind of leading into this being a bit of a lie. Mixu, though, he's going to take the third base. At this point, he's going to take the double Luminite, so he's going to really leapfrog his economy now if he's able to, if he's allowed to get away with it. And that has been kind of the story of this game in part. Denver, or the series, Denver has been very good with his micro, been very good with his macro, been very good with his ability to play on the map and punish his opponent, multitask, and do all these things. Yeah, absolutely. One thing he hasn't been as good at is expanding as quickly. This is very much something that we've been seeing. Mixu has been kind of identifying the positioning where the game is stalling out, and he has been better at expanding it, developing that economy. So for now, Denver is considering moving into that next stage. He doesn't have the Therium for it really, but he does have a machine bay. He does have a machine lab down that's going to allow him to get jump thrusters, to be able to dash forward with his Vulcans, to maybe move into Atlases or something. It does unlock the next round of tech. Fully unlocks the tier 2 tech tree. I don't know, you want to call it tier 2.5 maybe? Is an Atlas a tier 2.5? Tier 3, of course, is unlocked by getting the final upgrade on the command post, which it's not available to us yet. Will be in early access though. Turns out we're going to get some, not all, but some tier 3 units at the start of early access, with more getting added in as they arrive, so that should be fun. I'm assuming the Flayed Dragon is going to be a thing, as we're going to see that Lancer just get yeeted. I'm assuming the Flayed Dragon is probably going to be moved to tier 3. It's just so expensive right now that it doesn't make it. It kind of feels like a tier 3 unit that's been kind of shunted into tier 2. I assume we're going to get Archangels because we know they're modeled. We've seen them in-game footage. Archangels likely the tier 3 unit. 4 Celestials that looks like it does some sort of a ground smash attack. I'm not totally sure, but something like that. And then, well, we know the Graven exists, so that's kind of the. I think we probably get 1 tier 3 for each faction. No guarantees, but I think that seems relatively fair. But again, we talked about this in game 1. There are kind of these ebbs and flows of any RTS game where there are times when you think you can take a fight, and so you take a fight because you try to build some advantage that way, and there are times where it just doesn't feel like you can, so you sit back, you play on the edges of the map, you macro up a little bit, you're waiting for a timing, you're waiting for, say, Atlases to hit the field, or evacs to hit the field, or the Atlas upgrade, or you need to go and clear up all your creep camps because they've all lapsed, and you want the vision and you want the income. It seems like that is where we are for right now. But Mixu, all those timings we just mentioned, he's taken just about every creep camp that was his. Evacs around. Atlases are ready to go. He's got this timing where it's just really hard for Denver to fight him. And by the way, he's taking an extra base as well. So he's on 4 bases. 5, if, I guess maybe we can call it 5 if we want to count the double Luminite as 2. And the big deal, again, is he's just got much better tech. So we're going to see the Vision Camp. That's going to get taken out by Denver. And now, got to be very careful here. Now, luckily, Hedgehogs, they don't have anti-air unless they shoot up. Unless they transform. So that is something. And we see the Atlases here just look for the shots. Oh, one Atlas goes down. Nice target fire. Or Vulcans are going to start to join the fray as well. But, the surrounds are just really, or the concave is just really, really good. Atlas is walking forward. The shots aren't really landing, but they're making it really hard for Denver to take a fight. Oh, there we go. Now the shot's starting to land a bit. The DOT doing even more. And it does do friendly fire, so you got to be careful, of course, as Mixu does. But it's just zoning areas out in a way that is really hard to handle. There we go. Oh, God, it hurts. Yes, you dive on top. Yes, you kill an Atlas. But, ouch. That's a lot of damage being done here. It's just dropping Hedgehogs on top to end this game. Denver forced to tap out. Mixu goes up 2-1. Perhaps the last map of this series. So if you like what I do and you want to see more Stormgate content, I got some Battle Aces cast coming up later in the week once I get the VOD files for that so we can cast off of it. You want StarCraft content, go sub to the channel. It really does help out quite a bit, allows more people to see this. Comment, let me know how you feel about the Vanguard mirror. I know there's always going to be like the 3 people who are just going to tell me how ugly the game is. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But again, we're missing significant tile set improvements on all the maps. We're missing massive lighting improvements. And again, this is also recorded. This is a recording of a recording. So it's never going to look quite as good as if I was in game. Because, and also probably I think the bitrate was a little bit lower when this was recorded. So anyways, all those things. I know there are going to be like 5 people in chat talking about how, or 5 people in the comments telling me how they just hate the way the game looks. Which, if it's not for you, it's not for you. That's fine. You to you. But tell me how you feel about this mirror. I am excited. I'm hoping that we're going to have a little bit more variation than just mask out Hedgehog, because, well, that's not all that interesting, to be honest. But anyways, if you like what I do, drop a sub, follow me on Twitch. There we go. Also check out Stormgate Nexus, which is in my mind the best source for news and analysis about Stormgate, although I haven't as much time to write for it as recently as I would like, but it does have a full breakdown of the Celestial faction. So you're looking for more written word about that, that does exist. And now Mixu's 1 map away from victory in the TANC, the Alpha Navigators Cup Americas, number 13. And we're on the Boneyard. It's in the Bone Zone. This map is not new, but it's not new. It was available to play in the previous playtest, and it was available to play in Elephant, but it was not in the ladder pool. It was not approved for competitive play. So with all the different Alpha Navigators cups and things, this was not something that was added. It was too much in testing. So they made some minor changes. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what the changes were. I don't know what the difference was, but I guess they made some minor changes, and now it is in the pool. Good news, by the way, is Jagged Maw was removed. It's good that this is in the pool, because they had to remove Jagged Maw, because Jagged Maw was far too broken. It's a horrible map. I love Frost Giant, but Jagged Maw is a horrible map, and they fixed that. So that's no longer in the pool. It's good that Boneyard exists, and it's a pretty cool map. It's so you got 1 base relatively takeable on the high ground. It can be kind of hard against, say, Celestials going for their hard push, but in general, you have this high ground base that gives you just Luminite. There's also a base that is very far away, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock position, near more or less. It gives you Luminite and Therium. It's kind of this idea that seems like Frost Giant's messing around with, where you can take the easy base that doesn't give you gas, doesn't give you ore, or you can take the harder base to hold that does give you ore. So it seems like for now, again, Denver is going for this double racks Lancer idea. He got a lot of damage in game 2, decent amount of damage in game 1. So it is varying how much damage he gets. And again, how much damage he gets defines, well, whether he wins the game or not. Because game 1, he pretty much, or game 2, he pretty much won the game off the pressure. He killed off a ton of Bobs, kept all of his Lancers alive, established map control. Round 2 was really powerful. He just was able to snowball it eventually, and, well, life became pretty difficult for Mixu. The other games, though, it hasn't gotten quite enough. And yes, he's building a ton of scouts. He is. It looks like Mixu's gonna sack some of them. No natural on the way just yet, but Mixu doesn't go double barracks. Instead, he gets into a, well, there we go. Yeah, you're not, Denver's not breaking this. There's a level 3 Vulcan very early into this game, and just rushes up to that thing as quickly as possible. So this mass scout idea, it's a bunch of small light units that don't have a ton of HP. Vulcans shred them. So even as the scout number is pretty high, Mixu, it's been kind of cool to see him adapting every game in this series. He's just getting this Lancer or this Vulcan faster and faster. It's like, yeah, okay, you got 20 scouts, I got 1 Vulcan. It's level 3. You're not touching this. So now that he has that kind of solid defensive power available to him, he is going to try to get the natural. Now, there's no overcharge on these Bobs. There's no way to overcharge the Bobs up until the point where that base is done. So it's going to be 4 dead Bobs here pretty quickly. Scouts finding their value at 4 dead Bobs is really nice, especially if it can delay the natural as much as it is. So the natural is going to get delayed. Denver's is done. And I think that's a machine lab. It's being made on Denver's side of the map. He might be going for even Atlas's really quickly, but for now we're gonna see yeah, Vulcans are there. They got the full speed up. Scouts, they're gonna try to surround, but it's not gonna be all that successful. I'm really curious to see what this quick machine lab is for. It may just be for upgrades. No, okay, that wasn't a machine lab, never mind. So it's double mech bay coming out of Denver in this mid game is scouts. They're gonna do a really nice job cutting off reinforcements. By the way, the Bobs have been pulled for this, so this is committed. It's not the end of the world, as long as it gets some sort of equivalent damage, but it is pretty committed. This is 5 Bobs that are, or 4 Bobs, as they waltz across the map. 4 Bobs that are not actively mining, but they're so cute. Look at them. Left, left. Exactly. But for now, they're going to try to find their way up to the high ground, mass promotion, just so they don't die. And now we're going to see how much damage Denver's going to be able to get out of this. Of course, the Vulcan just wants to stand and fire at something, get itself that red barrel, do as much damage as possible, really increase the fire speed. And meanwhile, of course, the Bobs there, their job is just to mass repair whatever they can. This Vulcan's starting to get pretty dang sped up. I don't think it has a dash, though, because ideally you kind of dash to the right side and get a lot of value done. But apparently he's not going to have that access to that one. So Mixu commits in and doesn't get a ton. And these Bobs just left behind. Run! They're dead. Okay. So now that didn't work for Mixu, he did have a natural behind it, sure, but he lost the Vulcan, lost the Hedgehog, lost a couple Bobs. I mean, he's not in a great spot in this game. How can he defend? I know he has at least 1 Vulcan. He does have the healing camp. He does have defender's advantage. All these things are pretty nice. He can Bob, mass repair. But I'm pretty worried about whatever damage Denver's going to be able to find. I mean, he's got a decent amount of Hedgehogs. He's got some Lancers to tank. He's got scouts for vision. And he has also got 2 attack avenues to defend. Is really the big thing here. So for now, Mixu is, oh, that low. That's a nice job. I was gonna say the Vulcan's gonna get caught, but he just dives right up the cliff. Now, if you're attacking something down a cliff, they have vision of you up the cliff. They are aware of what's happening, so you can't just hide on the high ground and rain damage from above. But still, the Vulcan lives a little bit longer, gets a little bit more damage done. Mixu starting to get much more therium mining. He's got the refinery, the therium refinery onto that. a very exposed ore patch, but hey, you know, if you can defend it, play in front of it, you can go and make that happen, which is always going to be rather nice. As Denver expanding forward here, and this is kind of how we see this map get played quite a bit. You expand towards your opponent because you just, well, you defend with the rally. Kind of is the idea. So for now, the Therium refinery is dead. We talked about being able to mine Therium a little bit more efficiently, but maybe it's fine if you play in front of it. Well, if you don't play in front of it, it's gonna go down. So the Hogs are gonna knock that thing off. So Mixu, he's just kind of, again, he's just stuck in this hole. He's going to have a bunch of hedgehogs into his main base. It seems like Denver's a little reticent, and it can be difficult sometimes if you take a look at the setup. As we're going to see, well, nice micro there from Mixu. But in general, we can just see this setup where it can be hard sometimes to really get the pedal to the metal. Going to like, to get damage done is probably the proper way, because with overcharge being a thing, and with how just much HP units have in this game, even if you kind of dive in and even if you catch your opponent off guard a little bit, if they respond well enough, they're probably not going to take a lot of damage, even if they were massively out of position in the first place, which I'm kind of two minds of. On the one hand, it probably incentivizes deathballing a little bit more because it's a little harder to get harassed to work out. On the other hand, it means that it's kind of necessary on maps like this where there are two avenues into the main base. On Eyelid Red, there are two avenues into the main base. The map is big enough that it's very hard to defend everywhere if you don't have kind of some crutches to allow yourself to defend if you're caught like 1 or 2 times out of position. Now, ideally, if you're going to do that as your opponent, you go and you force the overcharge and you go somewhere else, and then that's where you attack. And that does kind of invalidate this idea that it's hard to get damage done. But as we're only on 2 bases, again, the attack avenue is not really going to be all that great. But Mixu dives on in. We're going to see 1 mech bay go down. Oh, that's a nice shot. That's a nice start. Shutting down the economy, or the production of our blue Vanguard player should allow Mixu to develop a little bit more tech. And actually, yeah, Mixu getting a little bit more here as well. Knocks down the Therium refinery, kills off a couple bobs. And he's just doing a really nice job. Targets down the, oh, there we go. The unupgraded Vulcan. No chance to get promoted. Gets targeted down here, kiting it away. Mixu, every time he's got a shot available, just gets more damage done. Now the supply has been equalized. Mixu, no third. No, he does have a third base. Never mind. He's mining off the Therium patch on the natural. So he's, well, outside of the natural. So he's got the refinery there. His economy's going pretty reasonably. Banking up a little bit, but it's okay. And the game just really, I struggle to see how this game is going to end, is really the way we look at this. Both players have 3 bases. Both players are well situated on those 3 bases. We're going to see more mech bays go down. I assume a machine lab going down. Eventually we should see Mixu, Denver going to Atlases and things like that. And really just go into this. Lean into this setup. So now this pressure coming out of Denver. He's got 3 Vulcans. None of them are pretty heavily up. None of them are exceedingly promoted, though, is the thing. Now, granted, Mixu's Vulcan's also not all that promoted, because while Vulcans have about 750 HP, as I think the number, they're surprisingly not tanky. Just due to armor type, and I don't know that they have much armor. They have like 1 or 2 armor, which is like 1 or 2%. It's not a ton. Anyways, big surround going on. We're gonna see again the big victims in this mid game are not units for the most part. The Therium refineries are getting taken down all over the places. Now a Vulcan's gonna go down. This is a pretty nice spread for Denver, but triple Vulcan says, God, I don't want to do this. We're going to back up. So do you take a 4th base, Denver? You got this map control. You got this army. You take a 4th base. These are very important questions. But for now, yeah, I was going to say Vulcan from the other side of the cops is not a good way to play. So we're going to try to dive on top. 3 Vulcans right there. 1 gets targeted down. Second one. Third will fall eventually. It's starting to speed up, though. Okay. Goes down before too much damage is done. Denver takes a pretty solid trade once again. And this is the setup where Denver has been kind of up and down. But in this game, he's been doing a really nice job of developing his economy. He's developed his tech just as well. And he's got his, again, he's just had a little bit more money over time. So that is actually a pretty big deal. It does mean that he's being able to build just a little bit more as the bulwark goes down on the mech base. So that's not going to die just yet. Vulcan, well, number 1's dead. And this has turned into a game of, well, can I keep my Vulcan alive? Can I dive on my opponent's Vulcan? These are really important questions. As the dash backward does keep that Vulcan alive from Denver, he's going to be okay there. So I guess the big story out of that fight is, first of all, the supply differential staying pretty consistent. But more importantly, a therium refinery from Mixu went down. So his economy, again, that therium economy is not what it should be. Main base, by the way, mined out from Mixu, not from Denver just yet. I think he had less Bob's mining on it for a little bit longer, but it should mine out pretty soon. So Denver, he does have his 4th base on the way. He's mining. It's kind of interesting to see these expand patterns as well. I've found myself kind of expanding bottom side quite a bit because I do value that extra therium early on. But I guess also that's something where I play Infernals, and you are much more therium reliant as an Infernal player than you are as a Vanguard or a Celestial player or something. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It is pretty cool, by the way, to see different races effectively having to play the maps, just how they expand much differently. Not like, oh, well, I'm going to expand away from the Terran because that's how I want to play, but oh, this map has different resources at different bases, so I need to expand to fuel my economy in different ways, and that makes me vulnerable in different ways. Is a pretty cool idea, actually. But okay, Mixu or Denver is going to dive in, trying to get on top of the therium refinery. This time, though, it's going to get saved. Mass repair plus the bulwark means it's not going to go down. And Mixu takes the base that I kind of expected a little bit more. All right, this pocket base, the 12 o'clock / 6 o'clock base that does have that therium available, and it has a big patch generally by the time that you arrive. Granted, he's just at it for the Luminite right now. He's going to get jumped right on top of the repair. Has to be there, but this command post is dead. Easily taken down. So now it's a 3-base Mixu versus, oh God, he's actually, oh, this is the problem. He's going to get so many of these Vulcans. The repair turret is just not enough. And these Vulcans, even the highly upgraded one, they get shredded by this number of hedgehogs just set right on top of them. And now here come the hedgehogs of his opponent. Sure, but there's a bunch of Vulcans available, and the hedgehogs are able to tank. This is a miraculous fight for Mixu. He's finding so much value here. Another Vulcan's going to show up on the bottom right side. That hedgehogs are going to try to chase through. Now the stun's there, and that does slow things down for a time. But now, certainly, yes, that Vulcan is dead. We're going to see the dash on forward, and no great split, really. But remember, these hedgehogs, they are a little bit better upgraded. Sentinel added in as well, just to make sure you have that additional movement speed, that less damage, the damage bubble, everything else, the lockdown that just totally prevents you from fighting. All of these things, well, all of a sudden, Mixu, his tech is incredibly good. He's got an Atlas. He's got a Sentinel. And Sentinels are of course, really interesting units because, well, they do a bunch of things. We see these shots go down and just massive. So they have an aura that makes you faster. Unless they've removed that. They might have removed that in the last patch. They also, when they attack units, they reduce their vision range and give you vision of them. And also, they have a lockdown ability that just prevents mech units from fighting. This is a unit that actually, the unit that used to be the Graven in like early playtests, had a similar ability. Obviously, the Graven doesn't. A little more of an infiltrator unit, but this ability to just shut down mechanical units is a pretty big deal. It allows you to maybe overcome some of the supply differences and some of the supply inequalities that you otherwise had. And because of this fight that Mixu's taken with the Atlas and the Vulcans and the Sentinels and everything else, he's been able to go and break down Denver's 3rd base. This is just, oh God, that's a big Atlas shot. That is painful. But he's been able to slow siege this down. The base isn't dead yet, but all the workers are, and that's arguably more important of a thing. And the question, though, is whether he's gonna, I think he's gonna go and run head first into his opponent's Luminite set up on the north side and take that off. So yeah, a lot of money all of a sudden being taken off the table for Denver. Now, we're going to see a bunch of Hedgehogs dive in other side, and this bulwark is proving to be so valuable. You dive in, but the bonus HP, the bonus armor on the bulwark, it matters quite a bit. And now, I mean, these Hedgehogs are getting a decent amount done, but a lot of them are getting shut down, so that means the Vulcan should be able to handle the rest. No promotion available, though, so that actually the Vulcan will die. Meanwhile, Hedgehogs on the other side, Bobs are here as well, and Mixu's going to find out that his opponent does, in fact, have a base. Sentry Post with the repair is going to go, and well, the Bobs are going to repair the Sentry Post. Sentry Post repairs the Bobs, and this base is gonzo. It's gone. It's done. Mixu is going to be able to take it over. Denver loses that position. Does mine some money out of it, but it takes approximately 12 minutes to mine out a base, so I don't think 2 minutes of mining less is really going to define the status quo of this. But there's not a lot of this army, actually. Yes, there's a Repair-O-Matic, but yes, there is the Vulcan, and it does do a lot. Yes, there's a Sentinel, sure, but there's not a lot. Well, more Sentinels here. There's no anti-air available. I mean, you have the Hedgehogs that can go into anti-air mode, but they don't want to be doing that. They want to be fighting things on the ground. So we're going to see repairs there on the Sentinels. We're seeing a lot of damage get done. Overcharge available on Denver's Bobs, but of course not Mixu's. And I think he's going to get rebuffed. I think, well, maybe more Hedgehogs show up. And we're seeing just, the thing is, the Hedgehogs, they're just not able to fight because there's so much energy available on these Sentinels that they're just getting perpetually locked down. And you just have this force multiplier here. Taking supply out of the fight. And that, well, that actually matters quite a bit. Mixu, by the way, we talk about this setup. One of the reasons that Denver's not out of this, hasn't left this game is, well, the last game in the series, if he loses, but Mixu's all of a sudden up 163 supply to 93. He's got more workers. He's got more economy. He's got more army. He's got better tech. That really is the big thing. We see the stasis going, and not only is it taking Denver's units out of the fight, it's also taking the Vulcan out of the fight, keeping that alive a little bit longer, making so when you target fire it, it doesn't do anything. And I think at this point, I think Mixu is pretty, I mean, he is winning the Hedgehog War, and we're going to have to see the, what's the word? We're going to have to see the Sentinels. They're going to have to return to their hangars. There is that. It seems like Denver was able to hold on to that high ground, to that fourth base, the northwest position, pretty convincingly, or not, maybe not convincingly, but reasonably well enough. Now, Denver, is he going to get the base? I don't know that he gets the base necessarily, but that's a lot of Bobs going down. So, yeah, maybe. Sentinels are here, and again, the Sentinels don't do a ton of damage, but they do enough, is kind of the story of things. We're going to see the bubble go down as well, which means you take less damage from units outside the bubble, or less damage from range units outside of the bubble. So there is that. Vulcans are going to continue. They will go down, sure, but they're going to shred a lot of these Hedgehogs in the meantime. This bubble is doing so much. And that means I believe the Sentinels have both tiers, Expert and Mastery, on their upgrades. So you get the lockdown, you get the bubble. We're going to see one of these mech labs go down. I think Bobs were pulled from somewhere else. Mixu's taken the bottom right side. His opponent has taken the upper left. And we will see the mech bay go down. But I mean, this army that Mixu has made, the moment he moves across the map, I don't think that we're going to really be able to see Denver do all that much. So yeah, there we go. Denver's dead. Our top Vanguard player falls down. Mixu takes tank 13, 3-1.